Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. This episode, tips for hiring a handyman. Thanks for listening to another edition of Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help you save time, money, and most of all, aggravation. To help me explain, I'm here with my ever-cheerful and old buddy, John. John, what's been happening this week?
Hey, Larry. Glad to be here, as always, this week. This week was pretty interesting. I just have a little quick story about changing light bulbs, actually. I got a call from a neighbor of mine that couldn't change a light bulb in his outside pendant light that was hanging on a porch.
Really?
And yeah, it was.
Did you ever think you'd get paid to change light bulbs?
Well, let me explain a little bit. I mean, it was a little bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be. And they actually had, these are nice fixtures, and they had two of them. And if you ever put these things together, they have like a big threaded rod through the whole middle of them.
Yes, they do.
And they have where they secure themselves up on a chain and through a threaded little hook, and then on the bottom they got a finial, and you thread this thing together, and it squeezes the whole light together, really. And inside this big glass dome is these three lights.
And you pray to God that you actually don't cross-thread the threads. Yes.
Well, so these were expensive. These were expensive pendants that they had that they bought from
doesn't matter,
a lighting store.
Yep.
And so I got up there and I was like, okay, well, this is going to be easy. Nope. Because those bottom finials were totally frozen onto those threaded rods.
Oh, fun.
I don't know if it was a similar metal situation or what, but I could not get those off without destroying it, which I did not. So I had to take the whole fixture down, unwire the whole thing out of the ceilings, and pull the whole thing down, take it apart from the top to replace the light bulbs. Both of them. So here I am up on a 6-foot ladder doing this, and it was incredible. So I told him, I said, next time these bulbs go out, let's just put up new fixtures.
That's right. We're going to do new fixtures. So it kind of brings us to our topic, right? It brings us to our topic of tips on how to hire a handyman. And we, or at least I know in my case, I see absolutely a huge number of people that we go in and do a lot of work in behind other contractors. Would you agree with that?
That's right.
Yeah. So in that process, we tend to see, I hate to make generalizations, but there's a lot of, we'll call them dissatisfied customers who are dissatisfied with their contractors.
Right.
And a personal opinion, some of the things are the contractor's fault, and some of the things are, I'm going to say, the agreement or the process's fault, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we decided that what we would do is we would have a little conversation about how do you actually hire a contractor / a handyman, and what are some things to look out for and what are some things to not look out for. Because everybody has a contractor horror story. I mean, I know I have several, right? Like, we're redoing a room, and it's about a 10 by 10 room, and the guy buys 50 pounds of drywall screws to do the drywall in there, and I personally know he used about 10 screws to put the drywall up. And I'm like, dude, you're charging me for the whole, 50-pound box. No, we're not doing that, And he got a little testy about that. But I mean, these are the things that happen, and we see it all the time. John and I both did a couple of big jobs over this summer where we were in behind major remodels where they actually customers spent like $100,000 plus on those, right?
Yeah, it was about 150.
Yeah, and so we're in back doing what I considered to be work that should have been done by the original contractor. And so, anyway, we're trying not to give, quote, legal advice, if you want to call it that, because we're not doing that. We're not attorneys in any way, but we are giving you some tips. And, John, what would be one of the first tips that you could give to somebody if they're hiring a contractor?
Well, if you're going to hire a contractor, it's absolutely, I think, like buying anything big. Get references.
Yeah, definitely get some references. Look at online references, although they're not the be-all, end-all. personal opinion, you really need to get the name of 3 people if they'll allow you to call 3 of their former clients and find out.
Right.
You know,
a lot of friends, family that might have gone through this. I mean, it's everybody that goes through these kind of things. You know, if we're talking about contractor, you know, that's something you need to really invest some time in.
Yeah. One of the other things just in that sense is to ask what their scope of work is, meaning especially for like a handyman, for what we do. We have a scope. I call it a scope of work, meaning we'll do certain things, but we won't do other things, right? And I know in our case, or at least I know in my case, I know John does the same thing because we basically talk a lot about this kind of thing. But there are jobs we just won't do. Like we generally don't do high ladder work, for example.
Right.
Right. I know I don't.
Yeah. Not a young guy anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to have that, and part of that is in the references. You know, it comes under references, but it's like if you have to be very specific with the jobs that you want to do. So what is it that you're trying to do? Both John and I come out of a sales background, so we tend to ask a lot of questions, right, John? I mean, what's your goal when you go to talk to a customer?
Well, I think you just mentioned the word goal, you know, and it's really what is their goal in terms of what the work is that they'd like to have accomplished. Understanding what the client would like is really paramount, so that they're happy and you're happy. Now, we all want to do a professional job, and I do make recommendations. When they ask me to do certain things, that I can be a little additive to those things, but
right.
I just want to be aligned with what their expectations are.
Yeah, I refer to that as their vision. So
Right.
What is it that you're trying to achieve? And be really specific about that. Some things are rather simple. In the handyman case, somebody calls me up and they say, I want you to install a ceiling fan, and I will ask a basic question: how high is the ceiling? Do you have the fan? And that's about all the questions that we're asking in that case. But if you're getting into a little bit of a more complex project, then the questions become more important. And the questions need to come from the contractor. There needs to be great communication between the two of you so you fully understand what that vision is. That's my thing, or what your goal is. What is it that you're trying to achieve? If you've just got, if it's a series, say a to-do list, and it's very simple, and most handymen are going to tell you yes, yes, no, yes, yes, or they're going to tell you yes, 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 But you get into anything more, you're doing a tile job, you're doing something like that, you got to be really specific. What is it that you're really trying to do? So that's one of my things. That's where I say it's kind of one of the things that it's important to be able to communicate exactly what it is, what color. And John and I talk about colors all the time. We hate colors because painting is really a bane to us. It's just a question of what color do you want, and do you really want it? Can we get it to match, kind of thing. But anyway, with that said, what other things? Is there anything like what other issues do we see from the field that we need to address as far as if you're hiring somebody? Like, what are some of the things that we sort of have scratched our heads over?
I think there's a difference. Well, it's a lot of similarities, and there's differences between a contractor and a handyman. If we're talking about a handyman here, I think a lot of times, are they presentable? Are they professional? And that is a similarity with hiring a contractor, of course, but it's still important from that perspective.
First impressions, right?
Exactly. First impressions.
So somebody comes in a dirty T-shirt that's ripped,
exactly. And I wasn't gonna go down that,
but we've seen it, right?
But we've seen it.
Yeah,
but you see it a lot in when you're at the big box stores and the guy's pulling up in a truck, and it's like I personally wouldn't want him, just from the outskirts. I mean, he might be the nicest guy in the world,
and
right?
he might do quality work.
But that is something just to be considered. Other types of things as
Well, back on professionalism, right? I'm going to just touch on professionalism.
Sure.
So a professional has what? Insurance.
That's correct.
They should have references,
Yes.
As we say. I'm also big on personally. There's a number of nationwide organizations that
Yep.
it's advantageous to be a member of. So I know for myself, I'm a member of the American Association of Certified Handyman Professionals, and what I gain from that is really a lot of really good information as far as the business side of it and what sort of things, what are concerns in the industry and what are some of the things that we need to do. Most contractors in general are members of some of their trade organizations. So there's the Plumber Heating, PHCC, which is Plumber Heating Contractors Collective or something like that. Anyway, there's all kinds of organizations. So from a professional standpoint, I personally think if you're a member of an organization, it's of advantage. Let's call it that. What other professional things are there, John?
Well, I think just I'm always going to go back to references because I think it's one of those things where the people that have already interacted with this individual are going to give you a good handle on that side of things.
That's why I always send everybody to my mother.
Right. Yeah, call Ma.
Call my mom.
She's going to tell you I'm the greatest. But I mean, if you can go back to something like that, it's always good. It's always good. Even in business, I always, everybody was very reliant on references, and if they weren't, I was a little skeptical of where we were going with this deal.
Right.
So
one thing I would say too is just that, again, this is a professional thing that we both can offer up. I know you have it and I have it as well. We can actually give you a background check. So I have a copy of the background check that we can give you. Besides the few years in prison, it really wasn't too bad. That of course is a joke. But they should be able to give you a decent background check. You can go I'm in the rental business and we do background checks on all of our tenants. It's like, I don't know, it's like a $20 background check, but it tells you basically what's going on with somebody's life.
Right.
So it's just kind of one of those it's a little added thing that lends to professionalism.
I was going to say, and the other thing is that from a professionalism standpoint is do they do good work? These are kind of the questions, folks, that you need to kind of have in your back pocket when you talk to references. Because once again, I was going to say it lines up with their expectation and their vision of what quality of work that they want. I mean, we'll talk about this in another show, but quality, speed, and money is kind of at odds with each other on like a triangle. But there's the three
big things.
Three big things. They're going to be.
You're not going to get all three at the same time. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So but I don't like doing. I've seen a lot of videos, and I don't like doing some of the work I've seen in some of these videos on YouTube. Just
because it's not right.
It's just not right.
Yeah.
And just for
everybody's
a
a critic.
We're right. But it's one of those things where just for a few dollars more, you can get it back to perfect. Maybe not perfect, but it's not going to be just kind of a slop jockey.
Right.
Work. So.
Right. Yeah, and types of equipment and things. So we do want to touch on one thing too. Depending on how do we want to say this? This is kind of an interesting thing, but we ran into this problem on one of these big jobs that we did. The location was in the north part of Atlanta, and the contractor was from the far western edges of the Atlanta metro area. His drive time per day was about 2 hours, John?
Yeah, it was that's about right.
Yeah, so 2 hours. So I guess at least we're recording this in 2019, and the market is wide open right now. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're having to travel 2 hours to get a job, I don't care how big it is, it actually raises a question in my mind.
It raised a couple of questions. It always raises questions in my mind. The problem is if you do have a project going on, and now there's a distinction here between being a contractor, doing a big job.
But even in a handyman, unless it's on a referral, right, John? So what's your let's just talk about ourselves. Your area of operation is about how many miles will you operate in as far as just from your base of operation, say which I know is your house.
Probably 20 miles.
And you don't go outside the 10-mile circle pretty often.
No. I don't. So as a the median there is probably about 10 miles.
Yeah, and I try to work under the same thing. Now, if a good customer calls me and has a reference for somebody that's farther away, I've done some jobs that are a little farther away. But I have to be, even in my case, if I do those far away jobs, they have to be very specific, and they're not ones that are going to potentially give me warranty work of any type. I mean, if it's a simple job, it's one thing. If it's a little more complex, and I say that in the handyman world, there's certain things are a little more complex than other things. But we generally both don't work out of an area of operation. I try to work within a 5-mile circle of, if I can.
I agree with that.
And the reasons is that it just allows me to give you better service as a customer.
That's absolutely a good point. That is true.
Yeah, there's just so many reasons that, because we work out of our houses, we live close. It's easier if there's any issues ever whatsoever.
You're right there.
Yeah, you're right there. You're just right there. So you've got to be careful. I think it's a personal opinion, but I think you have to be careful if somebody's coming from far, far away. Unless there's always exceptions. I know we'll get 100 comments. Oh, I was hiring somebody to work in extremely, ornamental wood, and I needed to hire somebody from 3 states away, and I get that part, right?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
So when if you're doing highly specialized work, right, it's one thing. But I'm just talking about if somebody's doing drywall and they're coming from 2 hours away, it's a red flag.
And, and that goes to a point of are they busy? Are people busy? And you want somebody that's busy. It's not. Don't give up on somebody who's busy because they're busy for a reason.
Right.
They do good work. People are calling them, and it's somebody's just not picking up.
It's not just slapdash, I'm out of work kind of deal. Now, if it's a new guy, it's one thing. But again, we're recording this in 2019, and right now, anybody that has any kind of skills whatsoever and does a halfway decent job is so busy. You're lucky to get on their schedule to do simple jobs within a couple of weeks, John?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's under the current circumstances. If the market turns down a little bit, it might change a little bit, but if you're not busy right now, that would be my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So just for the audience, I wouldn't give up on somebody that says, "Hey, I'm about a week out." I think that's pretty acceptable now, unless it's a plumbing emergency, of course, or something like that. Now then that's a different story,
right?
But if you're
if
you're
just
for
looking,
somebody to hang your pictures, fix some wall board, things like that, you want somebody who's reliable, good, everything we just talked about.
Right. So one of the other things that matters to me is just what types of payments do they take, right? So are they cash only? Are they cash check? Do they take credit cards? Do they have Venmo, PayPal? Do they do Zelle? Do they do what kind of payments does somebody take? To me, that's a professional issue. We take your money no matter how you want to give it to us. Just make sure you give us a lot. At least that's my opinion. But we do. I know for myself, I prefer. I will take all forms of payment. I do personally. I charge for credit cards because there's an incurred cost there, so I add 3.75% because that's what it cost me. But we'll take any types of things, And there's a lot of guys out there that'll only take cash, and I'm not bagging on them in any way whatsoever. I get it. I do get it, but right.
Yeah,
it's a personal consideration.
For the younger crowd, they're always doing Zelle or Venmo, so that's something. It's an expectation.
It's just an expectation thing. It's kind of it just is what it is. One of our other things, and I know I'm kind of bad at this, but good communication skills about people getting back to you. The busier we get, the busier I get, the less I tend to return phone calls. I do tend to return phone calls either in the morning early or in the afternoon late. And I want to set that expectation out there for people, because when I'm on the job, I always look at it from the customer's point of view. So if I'm out there on the job and I'm in your house and I'm doing a job for you, I don't think it's my job to be soliciting business while I'm working for you.
Right. Now, I will say that if somebody is on my schedule and they call me, everybody's familiar with texting these days, so that's a good thing, and you can take 2 seconds and say I'm on the job and I'll be back to you.
Yeah, shortly, right. Still back to good communication skills.
So there's no reason not to, at least to communicate. Now, I've hired people myself that I have heard from in days, and that makes me wonder. So
yeah, if you're on my schedule, you're going to hear from me.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Might be 4 seconds before I get to your door. No, I'm just kidding. But
well, the other thing is, I'm glad you just mentioned that because that just brought up something to mind. Is that I always tell people, I text them my card, and my card, as you know, has our picture on it.
Yeah, it's a scary thing, isn't it?
Your picture's on your card, my picture's on my card, and so they know who's going to be coming to their door.
Yep.
I always tell them what kind of car I drive so that they know who's pulling up on their driveway. And because mostly
because they haven't seen a 1964 Ford Econoline in a long time. No, I'm just kidding.
An old VW bus with broken out windows.
That's right.
Bent rims.
Yeah.
Wobbling down the highway. But I always do that because I know that a lot of times that the ladies are home, the women are home, and I don't want I don't want them to be apprehensive who is pulling up on their driveway.
Correct.
They know who it is. I always look at it safety first. So I really take that off the table.
I know. I just wish you'd used a different picture in your picture. The one with the numbers underneath it that says,
right. The one that was
Georgia State Prison.
The one that was from the post office.
Yeah, that one. Oh, just kidding. But no, but I do agree with that. I put my picture on the card because again, it's just like you if I email you, you get a picture of my card. I'll text you a picture of my card, so you do know who's showing up. It's on our website as well, so at least they know that this is who's going to show up at the door. And then of course one of my pet peeves, and I always laughed at this one, is if I say I'm going to be there at 9:00, generally I'm there about 8:50, and I've actually had people come to the door and look at me and go, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "We have a 9:00 appointment." Yeah, but you're early. I'm like,
right.
Well, I can go back to the car. And they go, no. It's just that I've never had a contractor actually show up early, So it's kind of one of those professional things that, and if I am going to be late, and of course, living in the Metro Atlanta area, John, and everybody that lives in the Metro or has been to Metro Atlanta understands about traffic in this town. Oh my God.
Right.
So, if we're caught in traffic, whatever, there's either a phone call or maybe I'll pull over and make a test. Notice I did say pull over.
You did.
And make a test.
You did. Or while you're driving, you can talk to them, but always, be clean, show up on time, and clean up. That's something else. I mean, it's some basic. It's some basic steps. Hiring either a handyman or a contractor,
Doesn't matter.
Just setting your expectation because nobody wants to get sideways.
Everybody's had the experience of having a contractor come in their house and leave the place a flipping mess, and it absolutely infuriates me.
It drives me nuts because I've had them in here to do work, and I've
and you spend the next 2 hours cleaning up.
I've picked up a lot of trash and water bottles and sandwich wrappers stuck in my bushes and things like that. That's just not.
Well, it's not professional. It's not what a pro does, right?
No.
It's not what a pro does. Is there anything else? I know these are all just little tips, and they're not super specific. We'll actually do a show on doing more towards the contractor side about actually setting up performance indicators and things like that. But these are just kind of beginning general tips for when you're going to hire a handyman / contractor. Handyman. So, and when we talk about handyman, both John and I will do bigger jobs. I'm right in the middle of a bathroom remodel right now myself. That to me is a big job. It's going to take several weeks, and it's going to be pretty involved. Really different idea than what my typical handyman job, which is basically I'm in your house for usually not even a whole day. It's usually maybe, tops out in around 6 to 8 hours tops. Lots of jobs are just little jobs where we're in for a few hours. We're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing a little drive, we're doing any number of to-do lists. That's not quite as critical as far as having some performance indicators, but we'll do that again. We're going to do that in an additional show. Is there anything you wanted to add there, John?
No, I think that covers it. I think that's a good overview of kind of vetting this process out of finding quality people and just meshing your expectations with theirs.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. It's time for the Handyman Pros Radio Show Tip of the Week. So, John, I have a question for you. I came into your house today, and I went into your restroom. If we want to call it that. Yes, he says yes. So I went into your restroom, and actually I noticed that you no longer have gold handles on your sink faucet.
Right.
So tell me how you did that without changing out the faucets.
Right. So I did a little research on it, and I thought, well, after all this time, I was just going to either do one of two things: either change out all the faucets and everything, or let me take a stab at changing them myself with paint.
Yeah. So did this come from you running around the aisles in the big box stores and seeing the paint that's specially designed for that?
There is paint specially designed for that, and most of it is what I found was spray paint.
Yep.
Which is fine. So you can take your pieces and parts off and spray them. And in addition to that, I didn't even take that faucet off. I just left it on, and I masked tape around it, and
you painted it.
I just painted it with. I bought a quart of this oil rubbed paint, and it worked fantastic. Same thing applies to, as we said on the other shows, is buy quality materials and brushes and things like that. So I bought a nice little brush. Don't save $4. Spend the extra $4 and buy a really nice brush.
Yep.
And you can't even tell that it's brushed on.
No, I was amazed.
It looks great. Now, what I also did to make it really look commercially, what oil rub kind of looks like, they always do a little highlight on the edges, like it's been rubbed. And you can buy some paint, and it's like a copper. I think it was copper rose or something like that. It was a spray paint, which I actually just got a little tin can, and I cut it, and I sprayed some of that in the bottom of it and used a very fine modeler's brush, something like you'd pinstripe a car. You don't have to go that far, but I bought or do have some modeler's brushes, and they're real fine, and I just dipped it in that, and I just went around the edges, and it looks really good.
Yeah,
so I'm really impressed. I'm just trying it out right now, and just little techniques and stuff, and you just have to, experiment with it a little bit. So, everything else in it, it's starting to turn out great.
So this is just a little tip if you have older fixtures, right, that are perhaps gold, which is not quite in vogue anymore, and you would like to change them to. Did they make this product? So John changed it to this rubbed oil bronze color.
Yeah, oil rubbed bronze.
Or oil rubbed bronze color, which is, of course, in fashion right now. But do you know if they do brushed nickel in that product or not?
I think they do. One thing I was going to mention about the oil rub, it has a lot of metallic particles in it. So you want to make sure that when you're using it to really shake it up real well, so that the metal particles are suspended.
Yeah,
but I think they, back to that question, I think they do make it.
Yeah, I actually have seen it. I've seen it in a brushed nickel, so you can actually update and or repair your various different pieces of hardware, including doorknobs and any of the metal hardware that's in your house, for effectively a fraction of the cost of doing the replacement of fixtures, as it were. Because as we're just having a little conversation about changing out faucets. That changing a faucet out it's $50 to $60 on the low side, and then it's up from there as far as changing out the type of faucet. So
I'll just mention that my faucet and everything was working great. There was nothing wrong with it, so it kind of pained me to just toss it out because of that. And it was the way it looks and everything, the style of it was just fine. So if you folks out there are thinking about doing something like that, I just took some Scotch-Brite. And some the green pad Scotch-Brite and Scotch-Brite and scrubbed that thing down pretty good to get all the shine off of the old, and just proceeded to paint it, and you'll get the hang of it. Go slow, get a good brush, no marks. It looks great.
Perfect. There's the tip of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this podcast and have derived some value from it, here's 4 things you can do. 1, tell your friends about this podcast. 2, hit subscribe on your podcast player. While you're there, leave us a review. 3, subscribe to our newsletter by going to handymanprosradioshow.com and click on the subscribe button. We'll inform you of upcoming events, shows, and give you actionable tips for maintaining your home and property. And 4, send us an email with your questions to questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. That's handymanprosradioshow.com. That's our show for this week. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.